In the next episode of our in-depth series, we sit down with one of Britain's best young sailors to talk building teams, what it takes to transition to the Olympic world, and much more in this extended interview with Freya Black.
Hi Freya.
Hi.
Thanks for coming and having a chat with the Masterclass series. How are you?
Good, yeah, excited to be here.
Yeah? Excited to be in Palma?
Yeah, very excited to be in Palma.
How many times?
Only competed at Principia once because COVID hit, so yeah, it will be my second time.
And was that 470?
FX.
The first time? Oh, FX.
FX last year.
Oh, okay, yeah.
First international event me and Sass ever did.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Surprisingly went way better than we expected. We just missed out on medal race from a protest, which was gutting. But yeah, we were so impressed with how we did.
I think we're disappointed to miss out on the medal race in your first event. That's pretty strong. That's a good base to go from. So yeah, thanks for having a chat. And really, I think people watching would just love to know a bit about your story and where it started and your youth sailing. And obviously the last 2 years have been pretty cool, watching from the outside, getting into the FX and having some early success. So really we'll just have a bit of a chat about that, if that's all right.
Yeah.
So where did sailing start for you? What can you remember?
So I started sailing because my two older sisters had sailed. My parents aren't sailing background, but elder sister went on a holiday and loved sailing. So then it was passed through the sisters. I started on a small reservoir in Buell Valley Sailing Club, and I actually hated sailing so much. I used to cry every time and refused to go out. And then one day I was refusing to go, and my dad came down and started taking photos of my boat. I was like, why are you taking photos of my boat? He was like, oh, I have to put it up for sale. You're not sailing it, so I'm going to sell it. And then as soon as he did that, I got on the water and that was it. So he kind of called my bluff. Yeah, ever since then I started enjoying it. Sailed oppies until I was about 12 or 13, and then moved into a fever with one of my really good friends who lived close by. And we went into the fever for just over a year and did really well. We became ladies European, world and national champions, and a couple of overall silver medals and stuff in that as well. So it was a really cool year of fevers, and I'd say probably like my funnest year in sailing. I look back at that and I go like, oh, that was the best year.
Why was it best?
It was just honestly so much fun. The fever class it was nice and relaxed, but it was also really good sailing because you had a really good European and world fleet. So you had like the fun and the good racing. And yeah, sailing with another girl straight away was great.
And when did sailing become, or was it always, once your dad had threatened to sell your boat, was it then the thing? You know, was it your sport, your thing you did? When did it become that?
I think it became that a little bit later. Like, I've always loved sport, any sport I've loved. I played football. I was really committed to football from a young age as well, and it kind of got to the point where I had to choose football or sailing. I chose sailing, but mainly because the boys I was playing with wasn't taking the football very seriously. So I think my competitive nature, I want to win in anything I do, so sailing was a good route for that.
And is that what some of the others we talked about, like the motivation and how it can be different in youth and junior to once it becomes a bit more professional? What like kept you going when you were youth sailing? Was it the enjoyment? Was it the competitiveness? Was it like a mix? Like, why do you think you did so much?
I think it's a bit of both of enjoyment and competitiveness. I think, like, I loved sailing, and I loved at the weekends, like, going to train and being around friends and the sailing environment. But then the competitive side, I also loved that. And the winning thrill kind of thing of doing well and seeing you progress. I think I found that really, really cool.
So did you have any Olympic or big ambitions in that at any time? I don't know if you do now really, but like when did that kick in?
I don't...
Or did it kick in?
Yeah, I don't remember when exactly, but I knew in 29ers that I definitely wanted to carry on and go Olympic sailing. But my memory is really bad, so I don't know when that quite kicked in, but I knew 29ers. I was like, you know, the last year or so I was set on, you know, making it into the British sailing team and making sure I had, you know, some results underneath me to make sure I could progress and get into the team.
And you had success kind of through your youth sailing, Fevers in the year, 29ers. Why do you think you had that success?
I think I was quite driven from a young age. I think I was one in youth sailing to take it pretty seriously and, you know, was always up for learning and getting better and trying to perfect my 29er sailing and push it to another level, especially sailing with a girl boat. Like that, winning the girls' title was never enough for me. Like I always wanted to beat the boys, so I think I was trying to push what we could do to a higher level. So yeah, I don't think I was ever satisfied unless we kind of won overall.
Okay, that's good. And were there any times in that youth sailing where you struggled with not winning, or where it was difficult?
Yeah, for sure.
Because obviously you don't win every race.
No, we did have some bad events that didn't go our way, and I think it was hard at youth sailing to understand why.
Yeah.
I think now we're much better at analysing and working out what had gone wrong in events, whereas youth sailing you kind of just go with the flow a little bit more and what is laid out. So definitely struggled with that and then not having answers. But I knew I never wanted to quit.
Yeah.
So it was like, well, what's the next move?
Okay. And you sail with a few different people.
Yeah.
And what did you sort of learn from those changes, I suppose? Because I don't think it's all bad or all good. It's just you learn stuff, don't you?
No, I did have a few crew swap, which never is great for helm status, but...
What, you don't think it's good PR?
No.
Right, okay.
No, but yeah, I mean, I think I learned a lot from sailing with different people. I kind of also went through a range of where people were at as well. Like I said with Orla Mitchell, who at the time was a great female crew and knew the 29er, and she really pushed my learning because she was so experienced, and I think that was like a great opportunity for me to sail with someone more experienced and learn from them.
Yeah.
And then also taking the opportunity to then have that lead role with someone else and kind of help them learn, but then always keep learning yourself if you're in a more of a lead role, which was really cool.
And the times where it's less stable and you're changing more, and or I suppose you have results that don't go your way or you've worked on the wrong stuff, like when you look back at some of that, maybe even in Olympic sailing as well, how do you view that or reflect on that? Like waste of time, or, you know, it's a weird one. How do you view the unstable or bad bits now?
Yeah, I don't think it's a waste of time. I think, well, ultimately, as soon as you get into Olympic sailing, it doesn't really matter.
Right, okay.
I think as long as you can kind of you know, I don't really think about my youth sailing anymore in my Olympic sailing.
Yeah.
I think it just gives you great like foundations to know how you react to a bad situation, or know who you need around you to make decisions well, or
Yeah.
you know, start building the environment that you want around you
Yeah.
and who to go to.
So that environment, when you sort of talk about piecing that together, for you, what is a good environment? What do you mean by a good environment? Like,
Well, at the moment, it's kind of knowing who your close bubble is.
okay,
You know, at an event, like who's important, and if you have a bad day, like who you want to speak to, how you deal with that with your sailing partner as well, like what you both need from each other. And then also, you know, there can be a lot of noise. There can be a lot of people around asking how your day was, and you know, just making sure you're not spending energy on at an outcome event, you know, people that you don't need to.
and how have you got sort of settled on who's in your bubble, or 'cause you're relatively young, I suppose. So is that other people saying, "Hey, this is how you should do it," or was there stuff in your youth sailing where you said, "Okay, this is what I like"?
No, I think it's I don't have the full answers
Yeah.
at the moment. I think it is just piecing little bits together that you've noticed in yourself over the years. I think in 10 years' time I'll have a much better view, but right now I'm still trying to understand myself and how I react. So it's still, you know, understanding, and to be honest, probably the first pressurized event I did was last year at the Worlds. So that was probably the first time that I've really seen myself react under pressure. So from one event, you can only take a certain amount of information. So yeah, I think it's just piecing together the information.
So we sort of got into the Olympic stuff. When did you? So you did 29ers, 470s, FX.
Yeah,
How was that? Was it a year in the 470s? A bit longer?
a little bit longer,
Yeah.
a year or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe just under 2 years.
And how do you look back on that?
I think it was really cool.
Yeah. It looked cool from the outside.
Yeah, so it was going mixed for 24.
Yeah.
So I was, 2020 was never an option. So I decided to go mixed 470 sailing with a tall boy. And I just saw it as a great opportunity. With my height, I couldn't jump into the FX with anyone. I needed someone a little bit taller. So here Millie Aldridge, who I was sailing 29ers with, it wasn't an option to move into the FX together. And the 470 it's just such a cool boat. Like, I learned so much over the 2 years that I sailed 470. Like, my tactics got way better. My understanding of how to set up a boat and what sails actually do got, huge learning in that. So yeah, the 2 years were great fun, and I definitely improved my sailing a lot.
Yeah. I think for it comes back to that, like, there's no wasted time.
No.
Like, once you find your Olympic campaign, everything was valuable.
Yeah.
I think it's I don't know, that's sort of one of the ways I think about it a bit. And you were at uni at the same time?
Yes.
You finished now?
No.
No?
No, I did 2 years at uni, and then when Sass asked me to sail with her, I deferred my third year.
Okay.
So I'm hoping to complete it at some point,
Yeah.
but unsure when that will be.
And I think, like, for some of the younger sailors watching, the education thing is interesting. Like, what's your kind of perspective on it? Because people seem to be successful doing it, not doing it, I don't know. What's your perspective on that uni question?
Yeah, it's a hard one. Like, my attitude going to uni was that I was always going to prioritise my sailing. So sailing would come first, uni would come second, which is hard.
Clashes with the uni culture.
It clashes with the uni culture. I probably didn't make that many friends. I barely went out, and I missed a lot of uni. I was away for weeks on end, so it was hard with like my flatmates and everything. But I had always, sailing is always what I wanted to do, but I saw the great value in getting a degree. So that's how I prioritized my time. But it was hard. I mean, I had to get an extension on pretty much every deadline, which Exeter was really, really understanding. So it was cool. And then, I mean, I was probably the only one that was happy about COVID with uni, that everything went online and it made my life a lot easier. So yeah.
And we interviewed Ross, and he spoke about sort of he did uni and he found it kind of. He just said, "Well, I wasn't ready to move to Weymouth to be a professional sailor yet. So if I had, it would have been a disaster. Whereas uni taught me some stuff, and that was about life, and then that meant I was ready for it." How have you found? It feels like the environment in Weymouth is a bit different to how it maybe was 10 years ago. There are more young people. It is an environment you can throw yourself into a bit more than maybe you could have where there was an older generation. Like, how have you found that kind of Weymouth scene and fun and there's some cool stuff?
No, I mean, living in Weymouth is great. Obviously, the team is based in Weymouth, so you have all the support, and everyone also in the team lives in Weymouth, so it's kind of like a uni vibe with friends because you're all dotted around in your houses.
Little campus.
Yeah, it's like a little campus. So, I mean, it's really good with your friends, and you can really stay focused there as well. But I think uni definitely made me grow up quite quickly. I mean, moving out of my parents' house and then having to manage a sailing and uni at the same time, it was hard, and it definitely made me understand like organisation and planning and so
it's all good.
It's all good. But I always was going to choose sailing, so as soon as sailing always came first. So when I saw that opportunity to sail with SAS, it was a no-brainer for me to choose sailing.
And can you remember the first time you went sailing with SAS?
Yes, we went out in Weymouth. It was almost kind of like a trial sail situation.
Right.
But we hadn't discussed it was a trial sail.
Okay. So there's a bit of tension. But
not tension, because I was just like, well, it'll be a bit of fun.
Yeah.
But I also knew.
Don't screw it up.
But also don't screw it up. And it was great. I mean, I did 5 days in the FX in my last year of 29ers, so I kind of understood the very basic principles. But I suppose I probably didn't do too badly. Flat boat into any manoeuvre. So I didn't go horrendously. So we're here now. So.
Yeah. And where did you start with SAS? Like, how do you get from a trial sail to an Olympic campaign?
Oh, a lot of hours talking.
Really?
Probably.
Okay. What do you talk about?
Well, there's so much at the start to organise. Coming into it, we were obviously at quite different stages of our campaigns. SAS is obviously really experienced, and I look back at my 470 campaign now and go, I was not running a proper campaign. So there was a lot to kind of sort out and make sure that we were on the same page. So we started by just kind of mapping out the 2-3 years that we had and what we wanted to achieve, almost like a vision, and then trying to work out who each other were, and then the basic stuff of how do I rig an FX, and when we get down to the boat, whose roles of rigging is what, and when we're putting the boat in the water, Sass is going to hold the boat, I'll take the trolley, just like little things that actually you now forget about, but we actually had to talk about them because I had no idea how to launch an FX.
So what are the sort of silly bits that you have to sort out to start a campaign?
Yeah, the silly bits of, who was going to measure the rig each day, who was going to, when we get down to the boat, the first thing we do is put the wheels on, and then we have the next thing we'll do, and you don't want to spend an hour rigging each day, so you've got to make it, as soon as you get down to the boat park, you know exactly what you're doing to make it as efficient as possible. So it's just a few funny bits like that.
And you actually had a conversation about it, like
we actually did.
How are we going to rig?
Yeah,
okay,
we actually did.
Cool. And why do you think that's important? Because I sort of think there is value in that.
Well, I just, for myself, like I love like a task being done and then you're straight on to the next task, because I don't want to stand around like a lemon. So I think it's important, like just because when you're new to something, you've got no idea what you're supposed to be doing. So just to make me have a little bit of control over what was needed to be done, and then I don't have to ask Sass 10,000 questions by the boat of what's this, what's that,
And the goal setting stuff. Mm-hmm. So we got an interesting chat with James and others about, and you've spoken a bit about like the vision, 3 years, what do we want to be? How do you approach sort of working out what you're going to do every day? Because how many days sailing do you do?
We normally do kind of like 4 or 5 days on, and then a rest day. Possibly
in a year? Do you know?
I haven't worked
Don't
out.
count.
No.
Don't count.
No.
And how do you work out what you're going to do?
So we actually have a mentor.
Okay.
At the beginning of our campaign, we decided we wanted someone to kind of have an outside perspective and someone that we could kind of review and plan with and be that like sounding board. So we have a lot of, after every camp, we have a review of where we're at, what we think is important next, and when do we need to perform. So then ranking how important those things are to the outcome that we've set. So we set goals for pretty much every event that we do. So we just try and work out what needs to be done to get that goal.
And for you, is that process, do you feel like you've got loads of time? Or how do you create? Because I think of people watching like 200 days sailing, I think I'd lose my way. How do you not just sort of cruise, Or is that just because you're not a cruiser?
Maybe we're not, I think every session we do, we know why we're doing it.
Okay.
We'll never just go out just to sail. Even if that means we go out and we do 20 double tacks and 20 triggers and then we come in. Like that's still a good session, because that's exactly what we wanted to achieve, and we've learned something, and that's all that's needed. You don't need to, rewrite the book every single session, but still have something that you're working on and that you can focus in on.
And then the performance bit, how do you, does it change when you're coming up to an event? Do you do something a bit different?
Small events, no. So any training regattas, no. Nothing changes. We're just training up until that point. At a major event, it changes a little bit. I think the most important thing is to be, rested and go in confident. So whatever needs to be done to get you into that place is the important part.
When you're youth sailing, what was your process? Did you sail, enjoy it, work hard, and then get success, or were you someone that had a poster on your wall with your goals, or how freestyle were you?
Pretty freestyle. Yeah, I can't say I did any of this in youth sailing. It was definitely kind of more coach-led rather than sailor-led, but still with a bit of input. I think I made, if there was something big that we needed to work on, I made sure the coach kind of knew, and then hopefully they directed the session towards that. But I think at youth level it's about enjoying it, but still working hard, and you've got such a platform that everything is learning, so everything you do is good.
Yeah. Like, I found that with you as sort of, and with the good youth sailor, it doesn't matter what the session is, they are absolutely maximising learning something about going faster.
Yeah.
And then it's all good stuff,
Yeah.
It's all, and because you've got so much to learn, it doesn't matter quite as much. And was there any times in youth sailing where you did think, okay, this event I want to win, therefore I need to do X, Y, Z? Were there times towards the end where it became, because I think there'd be a few people here where maybe their last year of youth sailing,
Yeah.
and you had some good success. Did it ever become a bit more specific or a bit more targeted or a bit more, even if it's just mentally?
Yes. I think I didn't do well though discussing that with my sailing partner.
Okay.
To make sure we were on the same page. I think with youth sailing you've got Worlds, Europeans, Nationals, you've got quite a few events, but I think prioritising one is quite important. But we never had those conversations. So looking back, I would definitely want to just sit down and go like, here's the year. We want to top 10 at the Worlds. And the Europeans and Nationals are going to be working towards that rather than all outcome events. That's probably how I'd go back and do it now.
What are your ambitions? There's Olympics in 2 years?
1 year.
1 year?
Just over a year.
Yeah, I know. Oh yeah, I asked to deal with. How many days? Do you know how many days it is for the Olympics?
No. I think it's, probably like 390?
I don't know, my numeracy is way too bad to do it on camera.
Out.
Yeah. Do you think about it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
For sure. I mean, our ultimate goal is to medal at Paris. So everything we're doing is working up to that and making sure, we're progressing to make those medals.
And does it make, when you think about the Olympics, what do you, how does it make you feel? Do you I think I'd be nervous. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I get nervous thinking about it a little bit, yeah. Like, it's everything, as a youth sailor, taking it pretty seriously from a young age, you sacrifice so much. You sacrifice going to parties, you sacrifice hanging out with your friends on weekends, you sacrifice realistically your A-level results and GCSEs. So, you kind of look back over the last 10 years and you've given everything to one goal, which is quite a unique thing to do in life. Not many other people experience that. So yeah, it is, you've devoted your life to it. So thinking about standing on that podium is huge.
Yeah. And what about after? Do you know what you want to do? I don't know what I want to do in my life.
No.
But do you know what you want to do when you grow up?
I see myself Olympic sailing for, a fair few cycles. Me and Sass are planning to do 2028 as well. And then
A few trips to California.
California.
Exactly.
You can't think of anything much worse. And then I see myself doing 2032 as well.
Cool.
And then after that, I'm sure.
And what do you think about, we're in Parma at Ineos, somewhere over there, probably takes about 2 minutes to get here. What do you think about all this CLGP stuff? Do you think about it?
Yeah.
Is it on your radar? I know you're only just starting out, but.
For sure. I mean, there's some really cool opportunities going about. You know, the Youth America's Cup is going to be in 2024 as well, and that is something I'm really interested in doing. I think there's a lot of foiling going on.
Yeah, I feel like I'm the only person not foiling.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of different aspects of sailing. I would say, like, always keep your Olympic sailing as number one, but any other sailing you can do around that is always going to make you a better sailor in general. So any other opportunities that you can fit in, I think, go for it. But just make sure your Olympic campaign doesn't get hurt by it.
Yeah. And what would you like the sport to be like in 2028? You've just finished LA, you're looking at next, like, another cycle. Do you want everyone to be foiling around? Do you want to be doing all that? Like, or do you like a bit of Ilka 6?
I do like a bit of traditional sailing.
Yeah.
I think that will never go.
You don't want it to go.
Well, I don't want it to go
Yeah.
completely. I think it's cool though, the foiling boats, and I think it's better for the public to watch. But I think traditional sailing can't completely get blown out, because I think, you know, youth sailors learning in traditional boats is huge.
And are you kind of bothered? Like, if you went Pico racing, do you think you'd enjoy it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, we always say how in Weymouth we want to get a Zest
Yeah?
championship up and running with all the BST sailors. Just like, I just think the competitive side would just be so much fun.
It's Chris Boardman, cyclist. He's works in Sport England and stuff now, but chair of Sport England. I had an interview with him, and he said that people go, "Oh, why aren't you involved in professional cycling anymore?" And he said, "Well, I like problem solving. That's why I was a professional cyclist, because the problem was, how do you get fast? And so now I'm just solving a different problem, which is sport participation." So that's how he kind of views it. And do you think quite a lot of Olympic sailors are like that about this foiling thing, in that it doesn't matter? It's sort of, I don't know, what's the intrinsic value of sailing for you? Like, is it about the problem solving, or is it about the winning, or would it matter if it was table tennis, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a good question. And I don't know. I haven't done enough foiling
To know.
to know.
Yeah.
I suppose though, like, moving from the 470 to the FX, like, there's a different style of racing.
Okay.
Not that I enjoy one better, or I kind of describe 470 racing and tactics as it's a lot of small decisions that add up to, you know, a good overall result. Whereas the FX, there's a lot of less decisions, but they're more important, and it's different styles of racing. And I suppose foiling will have a different style of racing and tactics as well, probably more similar to the FX than the 470. So I'm sure it's still a lot like it, but it would take a little bit of getting used to.
I'll ask you again when you've done some more. Give it a few years. Do you wing foil?
I've gone out a few, like 3 times.
I know. Well, it feels like everyone's wing foiling.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm the only person that doesn't know
That
wing
doesn't,
foiling.
yeah,
Exactly.
don't have enough money to get a wing foiling kit yet.
Exactly. Final question.
Yeah.
15-year-old Freya, what would you say? Keep going? Do it different?
I don't think I'd
Like
change.
harder?
I don't think I'd change much. I think enjoy the youth sailing, but just make sure you're working hard and learning, and try and take everything from the people around you and your coaches. And yeah, just never lose the enjoyment. And that should keep you going for many, many years.
That's your fuel. All right,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you.